My name is Claire, and I'm about to tell you how 5 words from my sister changed everything. You don't deserve nice things, she said, standing in my living room, eyeing the home I'd worked years to afford. At the time, I thought it was just another one of Vanessa's bitter comments, the kind she'd been making since we were kids. But when I woke up at 2 a.m. to the sound of a diesel truck in my driveway and saw her silhouette against my porch light, crowbar in hand, I realized those words weren't just an opinion. They were a declaration of war. What happened next would destroy our family, land her in federal prison, and teach me that sometimes the people who share your blood are the most dangerous strangers you'll ever meet. If you're watching this, let me know in the comments if you've ever had a moment that made you stop seeking approval from people who never wanted to give it, and like and subscribe for more stories. I never thought I'd need to defend my home from my own sister, but here we are. My name is Claire, and this house, this beautiful, cozy sanctuary I'm sitting in right now, represents everything I've worked for since I was 22. 7 years of 60-hour weeks, skipped vacations, and ramen dinners led to this moment when I finally held the keys to my own place. It's not a mansion. It's a modest 3-bedroom colonial with original hardwood floors that creak in all the right places and a kitchen that catches the morning sun perfectly. But every inch of it is mine. Or at least it was supposed to be. I run my hand along the back of my sofa, a deep emerald velvet piece I saved for 6 months to buy. People think I'm materialistic when I talk about my things this way, but they don't understand. That painting above the fireplace? Grandma painted it the summer before she died. Her arthritis so bad, she could barely hold the brush, but she insisted on finishing it for my housewarming. The espresso machine on my kitchen counter? I bought it with my first bonus, the one I earned after landing the Morrison account that everyone said was impossible to close. Even my dish towels have stories, hand-embroidered by my college roommate as a graduation gift. Everything here was chosen, earned, or gifted with love. Nothing was handed to me, despite what Vanessa believes. Vanessa, my older sister by 4 years, sharp as a blade and twice as cutting. Where I got Dad's thoughtful quietness, she inherited Mom's fierce competitiveness with an extra dose of something darker. Growing up, she'd watch me open Christmas presents with this look, like she was calculating the exact dollar value of my gifts versus hers. If mine seemed better, she'd find a way to break it before New Year's. "You don't deserve that," she'd say, holding the pieces of whatever toy she destroyed. "You never fight for anything. Things just fall into your lap." Mom would sigh and buy me a replacement, which only made Vanessa angrier. The cycle never stopped. Last month's family dinner should have been my first real warning. I'd invited everyone over to celebrate Dad's retirement, cooking his favorite pot roast in my kitchen, the one Vanessa hadn't seen since I'd finished renovating it. "Quite the spread, Claire," Vanessa said, running her manicured finger along my granite countertop. Her husband Derek lounged against my new refrigerator, a beast of stainless steel that had cost me 3 months of overtime. Kind of big for one person though, don't you think? The room went quiet. Mom's fork paused halfway to her mouth. Dad cleared his throat, his signature move for deflecting tension. "I like having space for when family visits," I said carefully, refilling her wine glass. "Always the peacemaker, that's me." Derek smirked, that particular expression that made him look like a weasel who'd found the henhouse unlocked. "Must be nice, having all this room for stuff you probably don't even use. That fridge alone could feed a family of 6. "Well, it's feeding a family of 5 tonight," I replied, trying for lightness. Vanessa's laugh was sharp.
Right.
"Once a month." Meanwhile, Derek and I are crammed into our rental with Aiden's toys everywhere, barely room to breathe. Aiden, their son, my 5-year-old nephew, who I adored despite his parents. He wasn't here tonight with a babysitter, they said, though I suspected they just didn't want him around to soften my heart when they started their digs. "Your rental is lovely," Mom intervened, though we all knew it wasn't. They'd chosen a place at the very edge of their means in the right neighborhood, bleeding money for appearance's sake. "Lovely," Vanessa repeated flatly. She stood, wandering into my living room without invitation. "Oh, Grandma's paintings. Of course you have them all." "She left them to me," I said, following her. You got the jewelry, remember? Jewelry I had to sell to fix our car, she shot back. While you get to play museum curator. Derek appeared beside her, slipping his arm around her waist. They whispered something I couldn't catch, but I saw the way they looked at each other, then at my walls, my furniture, my life. Like they were taking inventory. That should have been my second warning. Over the next few weeks, things got strange. Vanessa started calling more often, which wasn't like her at all. Our conversations were suddenly peppered with oddly specific questions. Do you still leave for work at 7:30? She'd ask. Must be nice, having such a routine. When's your next business trip? Another day, another probe. I remember you travel quarterly, right? Is your security system one of those app-controlled ones? Derek's thinking of getting one. Each question seemed innocent enough, wrapped in the veneer of sisterly interest. But Vanessa had never cared about my schedule before. In 29 years, she'd never once asked about my work travel or my morning routine. Then came the voice message. She must have hit record by accident while talking to Derek. I was in a meeting when it came through, didn't listen until I was driving home. Her voice filled my car, through the Bluetooth. Don't see why Claire should have all that stuff while we're struggling. She's one person. One. Living in that huge house with all those nice things. And for what? To impress who? She doesn't even date. We could actually use that furniture. Hell, we deserve it more. We have a family. We'll just take it. She won't fight back. She never does. Remember when I took her bike when we were kids? She just cried to Mom and got a new one. This'll be the same. The message cut off. I pulled over, my hands shaking on the steering wheel. We'll just take it. The words bounced around my skull like pinballs. Take what? How? When? I sat there for 20 minutes, replaying the message, trying to convince myself I'd misunderstood. But Vanessa's voice was clear, determined. This wasn't an idle fantasy. This was a plan. Should I confront her? My finger hovered over her contact a dozen times that evening. But what would I say? Hey, sis, heard you're planning to rob me? She'd deny it, turn it around somehow, make me the paranoid one. Then she and Derek would be more careful, and I'd never see it coming. No. I decided to wait, watch. Maybe I was overreacting. Maybe it was just venting. People say things they don't mean when they're frustrated, right? But I started documenting everything just in case. Photos of every room, every valuable item, receipts pulled from files and scanned, serial numbers logged in a spreadsheet. I felt crazy doing it, like I was the one planning something terrible instead of protecting against it. I found myself drawn to Grandma's paintings more often those days. 3 of them, all oils, all painted in her 70s when her hands shook but her vision remained crystal clear. Lighthouses and storms, each one, because Grandma had a thing about weathering rough seas. Everything you have, you earned. She told me that last summer, her voice paper-thin but fierce. We were sitting in her garden, her in the wheelchair she hated, me on the grass beside her. Don't let anyone take it from you, Claire. Not even family. Especially not family. They're the ones who think they have a right to it. I thought she was talking about the paintings then, the ones she'd already told me she was leaving to me. But maybe she saw more than that. Maybe she saw this coming in a way I didn't. The questions from Vanessa kept coming, getting bolder. Do you still hide your spare key in that fake rock? I'd moved it that very night. Is your neighbor, Mrs. Chen, still so nosy? Mrs. Chen was my early warning system, and Vanessa knew it. You're not one of those people who keeps cash in the house, are you? I started keeping more in the bank immediately. Each query felt like another reconnaissance mission. Derek started showing up in conversations more too, always with these little observations about my excess. Derek says that TV of yours must have cost a fortune. Seems wasteful for someone who works so much. Derek noticed your car was gone all weekend. Must be nice to just take off whenever. Derek noticed. Derek says. Derek thinks. Derek and Vanessa were building a case, I realized. Not a legal one, but a moral one. In their minds, they were constructing a justification for whatever they were planning. I had too much. I didn't deserve it. I didn't even use it properly. Therefore, it should be theirs. The logic of it was breathtaking in its selfishness. 3 nights ago, I couldn't sleep. Something felt off, like the air before a storm. I found myself walking through my house at 2 in the morning, touching things like I was saying goodbye. The coffee table I'd refinished myself. The bookshelf I'd built from scratch. The KitchenAid mixer that had been my gift to myself after my promotion. These weren't just things. They were milestones, memories, proof that I'd made something of myself despite always being the baby, the one who had it easy, the one who got lucky. I was standing in my kitchen, drinking chamomile tea and trying to calm my nerves when I heard it. The rumble of a diesel engine. Getting closer. My neighborhood doesn't see a lot of traffic at night, especially not big trucks. I set down my mug, crept to the front window, and carefully moved the blinds aside just an inch. A box truck was rolling slowly down my street, its headlights off, navigating by streetlight alone. It stopped 3 houses down, not in front of my house, but close enough. The engine died. 2 figures climbed out. Even in the dim light, I recognized Vanessa's walk, that aggressive stride she'd had since high school, like she was permanently on her way to confront someone. Derek followed, and I could see him carrying something. Flashlights. My heart hammered so hard I was sure they could hear it from the street. This was it. This was actually happening. They stood there for a moment, scanning the neighborhood, checking for witnesses. Mrs. Chen's house was dark. The Johnsons were on vacation. Perfect timing, except they didn't know I was awake. I watched them walk toward my house, their steps confident, entitled, like they had every right to be here at 2 in the morning with a truck. This was really happening. My sister was really going to do this. The pounding on my door was loud enough to wake the dead, or at least loud enough to establish plausible deniability that this was a normal visit. Claire, open up. Vanessa's voice carried that particular tone she used when she wanted something, demanding but with an undercurrent of assumed compliance. This is family business. Family business. At 2 a.m. With a truck. I stood frozen in my entryway, phone in one hand, the other pressed against my chest like I could somehow slow my racing heart. Every instinct screamed at me to call 911, but I could already hear how that would go. Your sister's at your door? Is she threatening you?
No.
Then this is a family matter, ma'am. Claire, I know you're awake. I saw your kitchen light. Open the door, or Derek will open it for you. The casual threat in her voice made my blood run cold. Through the peephole, I could see Derek holding something in his hand, a crowbar. They'd come prepared. Vanessa, it's 2 in the morning. I called through the door, trying to keep my voice steady. Whatever this is, we can talk about it tomorrow. No, she said flatly. We're done waiting. You've had your fun playing house, but it's time to share the wealth, little sister. Share the wealth. Like I'd won the lottery instead of working myself to the bone for everything I had. The sound of metal against wood made me jump back. Derek was working the crowbar into the doorframe. Stop, I shouted. That's breaking and entering. It's not breaking if you're family, Derek called back, his voice muffled by effort. Besides, your mom gave Vanessa a key. We're just having trouble with it. Mom gave her a key. Of course she did. For emergencies, probably. Mom never could say no to Vanessa. The lock gave way with a crack that seemed to echo through my whole body. The door swung open, and there they stood, my sister and her husband, backlit by the streetlight like some twisted parody of house guests. There, Vanessa said, stepping inside without invitation. Was that so hard? She looked around my entryway with the calculating gaze of an appraiser. Derek followed, the crowbar still in his hand, casual as you please. What are you doing? I asked, though the truck outside made it pretty obvious. We're collecting what's ours, Vanessa said simply. Or what should be ours. This is for our new house, Claire. The one we're buying. Unlike you, we actually need these things. These are my things. The words came out more desperate than I'd intended. You can't. Vanessa laughed, that sharp sound I'd heard my whole life. Watch us. Derek was already moving toward my living room, his eyes on my TV. This'll look great in our media room, he said, unplugging cables without care for the setup I'd spent hours perfecting. That's mine, I said, following him. I bought that with my bonus. I have the receipt. No one cares about your receipts. Vanessa cut me off. She was examining my bookshelf now, running her fingers along the spines like she was shopping. You live alone, Claire. One person doesn't need a 65-inch TV. It's wasteful. Derek lifted the TV off its mount with a grunt, carrying it toward the door. The sound of it scraping against the door frame made me wince. He didn't care if he damaged it, it wasn't his to care about. Please, I said, hating how small my voice sounded. Vanessa, please don't do this. She turned to me with an expression I'd never seen before, cold, determined, almost gleeful. You've had everything handed to you your whole life. The baby of the family. The golden child. Grandma's favorite. Well, guess what? It's time for some redistribution. While she talked, Derek had moved to my kitchen. The sound of cabinet doors opening and slamming filled the air. Jackpot, he called out. She's got the whole Williams-Sonoma catalog in here. My kitchen. My beautiful kitchen where I'd taught myself to cook, where I'd baked cookies for Aiden's school fundraiser, where I'd finally felt like a real adult. I followed him in to find him unplugging my espresso machine. That took me 6 months to save for, I said. And it'll take us 6 seconds to enjoy it, he replied, wrapping the cord around it roughly. You can visit it at our place. Oh, wait. You won't be invited. They worked with frightening efficiency, like they'd planned every move. Derek handled the heavy lifting while Vanessa directed and grabbed smaller items. My blender. My Instant Pot. The KitchenAid mixer that had been my promotion gift to myself. You're really taking everything? I asked, watching my coffee machine disappear out the door. Not everything, Vanessa said magnanimously. We're leaving you the basics. You can live like you should have all along, simply. Maybe it'll teach you some humility. Humility. My sister, who'd maxed out credit cards trying to keep up with the Joneses, was teaching me about humility while stealing my belongings. The refrigerator was next. Derek had brought an appliance dolly. They'd really thought of everything. You can't take my refrigerator. I protested. I need that. There's a mini fridge in your garage, Vanessa said. I saw it last year at Dad's birthday. That's more than enough for one person. The mini fridge I used for extra drinks when hosting. That was going to be my main refrigerator now, according to my sister's grand redistribution plan. I heard car doors opening and closing outside. A few neighbors' lights had come on. Mr. Johnson from across the street stood on his porch in his bathrobe, watching. Mrs. Chen's curtains twitched. Help! I called out to them. They're robbing me. Mr. Johnson took a step forward, then stopped when Derek turned to him. Family matter, Derek called out cheerfully. Just helping with some moving. Right, Claire? I opened my mouth to scream that no, this wasn't right, but Vanessa grabbed my arm, her nails digging in. Make a scene, and this gets ugly, she hissed. Do you really want the whole neighborhood knowing our family business? How you've been hoarding Grandma's things while we struggle? Hoarding. She made it sound like I was some kind of selfish monster instead of someone who'd simply kept what was legally left to me. Mr. Johnson went back inside. Mrs. Chen's curtains fell closed. No one was coming to help. In their minds, this was just another family squabble, not their problem. The bystander effect in full force. Derek had moved to the living room again, this time eyeing my sofa. This'll be perfect for the den. That's custom-made, I said weakly. It won't even fit through your doorway. We'll make it fit, he said, already pulling off the cushions. While he wrestled with the sofa, Vanessa had found what she'd really come for. She stood in front of Grandma's paintings, her eyes gleaming. No, I said, moving between her and the walls. Not those. Please, Vanessa. Take anything else, but not Grandma's paintings. Grandma loved me more, she said, pushing me aside with surprising strength. You just convinced her otherwise at the end. Poisoned her against me. That's not true. Tears were streaming down my face now. She loved us both. Then why did you get these and I got some old jewelry? Vanessa reached for the first painting, the lighthouse in the storm, Grandma's favorite. I grabbed her wrist. Because you told her you'd rather have something valuable than some old paintings. Those were your exact words at the reading of the will. Vanessa's face twisted. I was grieving.
I didn't know what I was saying.
You knew exactly what you were saying. You thought the jewelry was worth more. It was only when you found out these were insured for more that you suddenly cared about Grandma's artistic legacy. She yanked her arm free and pulled the painting off the wall. The empty space it left behind looked like a wound.
Grandma's gone, she said.
She doesn't care who has these now. But my son deserves to grow up with family heirlooms. Real ones, not just stories about the aunt who kept them all to herself. One by one, she took them down. Each removal felt like another piece of my grandmother being erased from my life. The painting of the cottage where she'd grown up. The seascape from her honeymoon. The lighthouse series she'd painted while dying, her last gifts to the world, to me. You don't even like art, I said desperately. You called these old lady paintings at the funeral. People change, Vanessa said, wrapping them carelessly in moving blankets she'd brought. I've developed an appreciation. Derek appeared in the doorway, sweating from his efforts. Truck's getting full. We should wrap this up. Vanessa surveyed my now empty living room with satisfaction. The TV gone, the sofa halfway out the door, the paintings packed. We'll need to make a second trip for the bedroom furniture. You're taking my bed? I couldn't hide the disbelief in my voice. Guest room, Derek said with a shrug. Your mattress is better than ours. They moved through my house like locusts, taking not just valuables but pieces of my daily life. My microwave, my toaster oven, the air fryer I'd just bought, even my good pots and pans. This is sick, I said, watching them load my belongings into the truck. You're sick. We're practical, Vanessa corrected. You're single, Claire. You don't host dinner parties. You don't have kids who need space to play. This house, all these things, they're wasted on you. That's not your decision to make, isn't it? She turned to face me fully. We're family. In families, those who have more help those who have less. That's what Mom and Dad always taught us. Or did you forget that when you got your fancy job and your big house? I offered to loan you money. I protested. Multiple times. You turned me down. We don't want your charity, Derek called from the truck. We want what we deserve. What they deserved. As if my possessions were some kind of inheritance they'd been cheated out of rather than things I'd bought with my own money. The truck was nearly full now. My living room looked like a crime scene, furniture impressions on the carpet, darker rectangles on the walls where paintings had hung, cables dangling where electronics had been. There, Vanessa said, dusting off her hands. That should do for tonight. We'll be back for the rest later. The rest? I laughed, but it came out hysterical. What rest? You've taken everything. The bedroom set, the office furniture, that nice rug in the hallway, she listed on her fingers. Oh, and whatever's in your garage. I saw some nice tools in there last time. My father's tools, the ones he'd given me when I bought the house. Of course she wanted those too. Derek started the truck, the engine rumbling to life. Vanessa paused at my door. My broken door, the lock hanging useless. Try and stop us, she said, reading the desperation in my face. Call the cops. Tell them your sister borrowed some furniture. See how that goes. She was right, and we both knew it. Without proof of ownership on hand, without clear evidence of forced entry, since she claimed Mom gave her a key, this would look like exactly what they'd painted it as, a family dispute. Police don't like getting involved in family disputes. Oh, Derek added, leaning out the truck window. Wait until everyone sees your things in our new place. They'll finally understand what kind of person you really are. Selfish. Hoarding wealth while your own sister's family struggled. The truck pulled away, taking with it not just my belongings but my sense of security, my trust in family, my belief that there were lines even Vanessa wouldn't cross. I stood on my porch, barefoot and shaking, watching the taillights disappear. Mrs. Chen's porch light turned on, and she stepped out, wrapping her robe tighter. Claire, honey, are you okay? I wanted to laugh. I wanted to scream. I wanted to collapse. Instead, I heard myself whisper, "You don't know who you're dealing with." Because Vanessa had made a critical error. She thought I was still that little girl who cried to Mom when her bike was stolen. She thought I'd roll over, accept this as my lot, maybe buy new things and move on. She was wrong. My grandmother hadn't just left me paintings. She'd left me her spine, her fight, her absolute refusal to be walked over. I looked at my empty house, at the broken door, at the concerned face of Mrs. Chen. Call the police, I told her. And tell them everything you saw. Everything. Because this wasn't over. Not even close. The silence was the worst part. Not the empty walls where Grandma's paintings had hung. Not the phantom weight of my missing sofa when I went to sit down and nearly fell onto bare carpet. Not even the kitchen that now looked like a foreclosed house, all the warmth and personality stripped away. It was the silence that broke me. Houses aren't supposed to echo when you walk through them. Your footsteps aren't supposed to sound like you're in an abandoned building. But that's what mine had become. Abandoned. Even with me still in it. Every sound I made bounced off bare walls and empty corners, reminding me of what was no longer there. I stood in my living room at sunrise, still in the same clothes from 6 hours ago when Vanessa and Derek had torn through my life like a Category 5 hurricane. The police had come and gone, taking notes with the enthusiasm of DMV employees at 4:55 p.m. So, your sister took some furniture? Officer Reynolds had asked, not even looking up from his notepad. She broke into my house and stole everything. I corrected. But she had a key? She said my mom gave her one, but... And these items you say were stolen. You have proof of ownership? Yes, I have receipts. With you? Right now. Of course I didn't. They were in my filing cabinet in my office at 3 a.m. while I stood in my ransacked house. I can get them, I'd said desperately. Ma'am, this sounds like a family dispute. Your sister says you loaned her these items for her new house. She told you that? My voice had gone up an octave. When did you talk to her? Her husband called it in about an hour ago. Said you might file a false report out of spite about a family arrangement.
Derek.
Of course he'd called first, gotten ahead of the story. Established the narrative before I could even pick up the phone. Officer Reynolds had given me a case number and a pitying look that said he'd seen this before, family members fighting over dead relatives' belongings, using the law to settle personal scores. He didn't see a crime. He saw drama he didn't want to deal with. Now, alone in my echoing house, I finally let myself cry. Not delicate tears, but body-shaking sobs that came from somewhere deep and primal. I slid down the wall and sat on the floor, hugging my knees, and wailed like I hadn't since I was a child. Because I was that child again, wasn't I? The little girl whose sister took her bike and broke it just to prove she could. Except this time, Vanessa had taken everything, and Mom wasn't going to fix it with a trip to Toys R Us.
My phone rang. Mom.
I stared at it, watching her contact photo, the two of us at Christmas last year, smiling, pulse on the screen. I knew what this call would be. I'd heard this script my whole life. Claire, honey, she said when I finally answered. Vanessa called. She's very upset. She's upset. I laughed, but it came out cracked. She robbed me, Mom. Don't be dramatic. She borrowed some things for her new house. She said you'd agreed. At 2 a.m.? With a crowbar? A pause. She said you wouldn't answer the door. Because it was 2 a.m. Claire, please. Mom's voice took on that tone, the one that meant she was about to ask me to be the bigger person. It's just things. Material possessions. Is it really worth tearing the family apart? I didn't tear anything apart. Vanessa broke into my house. She had a key. Did you give her one? Silence. Then, quietly, it was for emergencies. This wasn't an emergency, Mom. This was theft.
Don't use that word, Mom said sharply.
We're family. Family doesn't steal from each other. The logic of it was so circular it made my head spin. Family doesn't steal from each other. Therefore, what Vanessa did couldn't be stealing. Therefore, I had no right to be upset. I have to go, I said. Claire, don't do anything rash. Don't involve lawyers or... I hung up. My phone immediately rang again. Dad this time. I let it go to voicemail. Then Vanessa, probably calling to gloat.
Delete.
Then a number I didn't recognize. I almost ignored it, but something made me answer. Claire? It's Ethan Chen. Mrs. Chen's son.
Ethan.
I remembered him vaguely, the quiet kid who'd gone to law school, visited his mom every few weeks. We'd exchanged maybe 10 words in the 5 years I'd lived here. My voice sounded raw. My mom told me what happened. She saw everything. Recorded some of it too, from her doorbell camera. Claire, what your sister did, that's burglary, grand theft, and about 6 other crimes I could name. The police don't think so. The police are wrong. Listen, I know we don't know each other well, but I'm a third-year law student specializing in property law. I want to help. Why? The question came out more suspicious than I'd intended. Because my mom's been your neighbor for 5 years, and she says you're the only person who helps her with groceries without being asked. Because what I saw on that recording made me sick. And because... He paused. Because I know what it's like when family thinks they own you. Something in his voice, a recognition, made my throat tight again. I can't pay much, I admitted. I'm not asking for money. I'm asking for justice. And maybe a law review article about family property disputes when this is over. Deal. For the first time since the truck pulled away, I felt something other than despair.
Deal.
Ethan came over an hour later, armed with legal pads and a laptop. He looked different from how I remembered, older, sharper, with the kind of focused intensity that probably served him well in law school. First things first, he said, setting up at my empty dining room table. They'd taken the chairs but left the table, too heavy probably. Document everything. Photos of the empty spaces, lists of what's missing, approximate values. Do you have receipts? In my office. I led him to the one room they hadn't touched yet, probably saving it for their promised second trip.
Good.
Scan everything. Create a cloud backup. They might come back for this too. The thought made me shudder, but he was right. I started scanning while he reviewed the doorbell footage on his laptop. This is excellent, he said, turning the screen toward me. Clear faces, license plate, the crowbar. Your sister literally says, we're taking what's ours at timestamp 2:47 a.m. Derek called the police first. Told them I'd loaned everything to them. Preemptive strike. Classic manipulation tactic. But it won't hold up if we present this correctly. He pulled out his phone. I'm sending this to a detective I know. Someone who actually cares about property crime. While I scanned receipts, Ethan walked through the house, taking detailed notes. He measured the empty spaces on walls, photographed the scratches on the floor where furniture had been dragged, even documented the broken door lock. This is breaking and entering, he said, examining the splintered doorframe. Even with a key, using a crowbar to force entry shows criminal intent. My phone buzzed. A text from an unknown number, but the message made it clear who it was. Thanks for the housewarming gifts, sis. The paintings look perfect in our new living room.
V.
Attached was a photo. My grandmother's lighthouse painting hanging above Vanessa's fireplace. I showed Ethan. His jaw tightened. She's taunting you. Save that. It's evidence of possession. She knows I won't do anything, I said, staring at the photo. I never do. I always back down to keep the peace. Is that what you want to do now? I thought about Grandma, her last summer, holding my hand with her paper-thin fingers. Don't let anyone take what's yours, Claire. Not even family. Especially not family. No, I said. I want my things back. All of them. Then we fight. But smart, not angry. Legal, not emotional.
Can you do that?
I nodded. Good. Now, tell me about those paintings. Your grandmother's will. Do you have a copy?
I did.
Grandma had been meticulous about her estate planning, probably because she knew Vanessa would challenge everything if given the chance. The will clearly stated that the paintings were left to me, along with a formal appraisal from a gallery that had wanted to show them. These are worth real money, Ethan said, reviewing the appraisal. Over $30,000 for the set. That elevates this from simple theft to grand larceny. Vanessa didn't know that when she took them, I said. She just wanted them because I had them. Doesn't matter. The value is what matters legally. He made more notes. Has she done this before? Taken things from you. My whole life. Toys, clothes, boyfriends once we were older. But never on this scale. Pattern of behavior. Good for our case. He looked up. What about your parents? Where do they stand? Mom wants me to let it go. Dad hasn't said anything yet.
He will.
In my experience, the silent parent eventually picks a side. Just might not be the one you hope for.
My phone rang.
Mrs. Chun. Claire, dear, that young man from across the street, Mr. Johnson? He's at my door. Says he wants to talk to you about last night. 5 minutes later, I was in Mrs. Chen's living room, drinking tea I didn't want but accepted because she needed to help somehow. Mr. Johnson sat across from me, looking uncomfortable. I should have done something, he said without preamble. When I saw that truck, when you called for help, I should have done something. Derek said it was a family matter. I replied, not unkindly.
I know, but I knew it wasn't right.
The way they were acting, the time of night. I was a coward. He pulled out his phone. But I did record some of it. For my security system. I thought just in case. He showed me the footage. Different angle from Mrs. Chen's doorbell camera, but it caught Derek carrying my TV, clearly showed the truck's license plate, and, crucially, captured audio of Vanessa saying, "Hurry up before she calls the real cops." The real cops. Meaning she knew the ones Derek had preemptively called wouldn't help me. This is gold, Ethan said, copying the file. Mr. Johnson, would you be willing to provide a witness statement? After standing by while it happened?
Yes.
It's the least I can do. By afternoon, we had a file building. Receipts, photos, videos, witness statements. Ethan had contacted his detective friend, who was very interested in a case involving $30,000 in stolen art. What's next? I asked. Now we wait for them to make a mistake, Ethan said. And they will. People like your sister always do. They get cocky, think they've won, and they overplay their hand.
He was right.
The mistake came sooner than expected. That evening, Derek posted on Facebook multiple photos of their newly furnished house, complete with my TV, my sofa, my kitchen appliances displayed like trophies. The caption read, "Blessed to finally have the home our family deserves. Sometimes good things come to those who wait." The comments were full of congratulations, including several from mutual friends who recognized my furniture. "Isn't that Claire's couch?" someone asked. Derek's response, "Family hand-me-downs. She upgraded and passed these on to us." Hand-me-downs. Like I'd simply given them everything out of the goodness of my heart. But the real gift was what I spotted in the background of one photo, a box of my files Derek had grabbed from my office, sitting open on their kitchen counter, including, visibly, the folder marked Grandma's estate, paintings. They took evidence of ownership, Ethan said when I showed him. That's theft of documents, potential fraud if they try to claim the paintings are theirs using those papers. Can we do something now? Now we can do everything. That night, I couldn't sleep again, but for different reasons. Not despair, planning. I walked through my empty rooms, but instead of seeing what was missing, I saw what would be returned. Every bare wall, every empty space was just temporarily vacant. My phone buzzed. A text from Dad. "Your mother told me what happened. This is wrong, Claire. I'm sorry I didn't say so sooner." Something loosened in my chest. Not forgiveness, not yet, but maybe the beginning of it. Another text, this one from Vanessa. "Having a housewarming party tomorrow night. You're not invited, obviously, but thought you should know where your former things will be living their best life." I showed Ethan, who'd been working late into the night on our filing. "She's having a party? With your stolen goods on display?" That's Vanessa. She has to gloat. Has to show everyone she won. Ethan smiled then, the kind of smile that made me think he'd be a very dangerous lawyer one day. Perfect. Let her gather all the witnesses we need in one place. Let her show everyone exactly what she stole. He pulled out his phone. "I'm calling my detective contact. Tomorrow night, your sister's party is going to have some unexpected guests." I stood outside Vanessa's house at 7 p.m., wearing my best dress, The one she'd always said made me look like I was trying too hard. Tonight, trying too hard was exactly the point. Ethan stood beside me in a sharp suit, looking every inch the lawyer he was becoming. "You sure about this?" he asked. "She wanted me to know where my things are living their best life," I said. "I think I should see for myself." The house, a rental they'd been complaining about for 2 years, was lit up like Christmas. Through the windows, I could see people mingling, holding drinks, admiring the new decor. My decor. We walked up the driveway, past the truck that had been in my driveway 2 nights ago. The front door was open, party sounds spilling out. Derek spotted us first. "What the hell are you doing here?"
He moved to block the doorway.
"Attending a family party," I said calmly. "Unless you're saying family isn't welcome?" His face reddened. People were starting to notice the confrontation at the door. Vanessa appeared, wearing a hostess smile that died when she saw me. "You weren't invited." "No, but I thought I should see how my things are settling in." I stepped past Derek before he could stop me, Ethan close behind. "Oh, look, there's my TV. Hi, my TV." The room went quiet. Friends, neighbors, some relatives I recognized, all frozen with drinks in hand, watching the scene unfold. "Claire's being dramatic," Vanessa announced to the room. "She's upset that we're doing well. Some people can't stand to see others happy." "Is that why you broke into my house at 2 a.m.? I asked, loud enough for everyone to hear. "We didn't break in. We had a key. And a crowbar," I added. "Would you like to see the video?" Vanessa's smile tightened. "Everyone knows you gave us these things. You're just having giver's remorse." "Really?" I walked to the fireplace where Grandma's lighthouse painting hung. "I gave you Grandma's painting? The one she specifically left to me in her will?" "Wills can be contested," Derek said. "But you didn't contest it. You just took it. Along with everything else." I pulled out my phone, connected it to my TV, their TV, using the Bluetooth I'd never removed from the settings. "Since everyone's here," I said, "let me show you what a family hand-me-down looks like at 2 a.m. The doorbell footage played on the 65-inch screen. Crystal clear. Vanessa and Derek with the crowbar, breaking my lock, carrying out my furniture. The audio was perfect too, Vanessa's voice saying, "Hurry up before she calls the real cops." The room was dead silent. That's not what it looks like," Vanessa stammered. "It looks like breaking and entering," said a voice from the back. Everyone turned. It was my Aunt Patricia, Mom's sister, who'd driven up from Richmond. "Vanessa, what were you thinking?" "It's family business," Vanessa snapped. "It's theft," Patricia replied. "I'm a paralegal, honey. I know theft when I see it." More murmuring. People were pulling out phones, either recording or texting. The party atmosphere had turned into something else, a crime scene viewing. "You're all overreacting," Derek said, trying to regain control. "We needed furniture. Claire has too much. We're family. Family share." "Do family share?" I asked. "Okay. Then share with me the contents of that box." I pointed to the box of my documents still sitting on their kitchen counter, visible from the living room. "That's private," Vanessa said quickly. "Those are my files. My grandmother's estate documents. My receipts. You want to talk about sharing? Share them back." "This is ridiculous." Vanessa's voice was rising. "Get out of my house. Your house filled with my things. They're ours now. Because you stole them. Because you don't deserve them." There it was. The truth, finally. The room seemed to inhale collectively. Even Derek looked uncomfortable. "I don't deserve them," I repeated quietly. "I don't deserve the things I bought with money I earned. The paintings my grandmother left specifically to me. The furniture I saved for. What exactly would make me deserving in your eyes, Vanessa? You're one person," she exploded. "Living alone in that big house, with all those nice things, and for what? You don't have a family. You don't have a husband or kids. You're just playing house like a little girl, and meanwhile, we're struggling to give Aiden a good life. So you're entitled to my things because you have a child? We have more need. You have more want," I corrected. "You wanted what I had because I had it. Just like when we were kids." Oh, here we go. Poor little Claire, the eternal victim. The surveillance footage suggests she actually is the victim here, Ethan interrupted smoothly. He'd been recording the entire exchange. Ms. Morrison, you just admitted on camera to taking items because you felt your sister didn't deserve them. That's theft with admitted malicious intent. Who the hell are you? Derek stepped forward aggressively. Ethan Chen, law student and Claire's legal representative. And you might want to step back, Mr. Morrison. Adding assault to burglary won't help your case. There's no case, Vanessa shrieked. This is family. Family doesn't steal from each other, I said, echoing Mom's words back to her. By your own logic, what you did means we're not family anymore. That hit. Vanessa actually stepped back like I'd slapped her.
The doorbell rang.
Derek went to answer it, probably grateful for the interruption. But his relief died when he saw who was there. Detective Shaw and Officer Ramirez. Not the dismissive cops from before, but the ones Ethan's contact had sent. We received a report of stolen goods on the premises, Detective Shaw said, holding up a warrant. We'll need to document some items. This is a private party, Derek protested. With stolen property on display, Shaw replied. Step aside, sir. The next hour was surreal. The party guests became witnesses, pointing out items they recognized from my house. The detective took photos of everything, comparing them to the list I'd provided. The paintings, Shaw said, examining the lighthouse. These match the insurance documentation. Ms. Chun, these are yours. Left to me by my grandmother, yes. They're family heirlooms, Vanessa protested. They should stay in the family. They are staying in the family, I said. The part of the family they were left to. Aunt Patricia spoke up again. I was there when Mom made her will. She was very specific about those paintings going to Claire. She said Claire was the only one who ever asked about her art, the only one who cared about the stories behind them. That's not true, Vanessa said. I cared. You called them old lady paintings at the funeral, Patricia reminded her. Said you didn't understand why Mom wasted her time on hobbies. More witnesses. Mrs. Chun had arrived. Ethan must have called her. She testified about what she saw. Mr. Johnson, guilt driving him to brutal honesty, described the theft in detail. Would anyone else like to provide statements? Detective Shaw asked the room. Silence. Then, from the back, my father's voice. I would. Everyone turned. Dad stood in the doorway, Mom beside him, looking miserable. Dad, don't, Vanessa pleaded. He walked past her to stand beside me. I gave Claire those tools in the garage you were planning to take next. My father gave them to me, and I gave them to her when she bought her house. They're hers. Just like everything else you took. You're taking her side? Vanessa's voice broke. I'm taking the side of what's right, Dad said quietly. I should have done it years ago. Mom started crying. Vanessa looked between our parents, her face crumbling. You always loved her more, she whispered. No, Mom said through her tears. We loved you the same, but you always needed more. More attention, more things, more proof. Nothing was ever enough. Because she got everything. Because you took everything, I said. Every time I had something that made me happy, you had to take it or break it. Not because you wanted it, but because you couldn't stand me having it. The room was silent again, everyone watching our family drama unfold like a soap opera. Detective Shaw cleared his throat. Ms. Morrison, Mr. Morrison, you'll need to come to the station. These are serious charges: breaking and entering, grand larceny, possession of stolen property. You're arresting us? Derek's voice went up an octave. At our own party. You're being detained for questioning. Whether you're arrested depends on what we find. As Shaw read them their rights, Vanessa looked at me with such hatred it took my breath away. You just destroyed our family, she hissed. Aiden will grow up knowing his aunt chose things over family. Aiden will grow up knowing actions have consequences, I replied. Something you never learned. They were let out in front of all their guests. The party was definitely over. People started leaving, mumbling excuses, avoiding eye contact with me. Only a few lingered, Aunt Patricia, Mrs. Chun, surprisingly my parents. Claire, Mom started.
Not now, I said.
I need to make sure my things are documented for return. She nodded, tears still streaming. Dad put his arm around her, leading her out. He squeezed my shoulder as he passed, a silent apology, or maybe a promise. I wasn't sure which. Ethan and I spent the next 2 hours with the detective, cataloging everything. The paintings would be returned immediately as documented stolen art. The furniture and appliances would be held as evidence initially, then returned after processing. It'll take time, Detective Shaw warned. But you'll get it all back. What about them? I asked. Vanessa and Derek? That's up to the DA. But with this much evidence, they're looking at serious charges. The fact that they involved crossing state lines with the stolen goods, they drove to their new house in Maryland, makes it even worse. Federal charges. I hadn't even thought of that. As we finally left, the house that had been full of party guests stood empty except for crime scene tape and evidence markers. My belongings would spend a few more nights here, but they'd come home. You okay? Ethan asked as we stood by my car. I don't know, I admitted. I got what I wanted, my things back, justice served. But I lost my sister. You lost her a long time ago, he said gently. Tonight, you just stopped pretending otherwise. He was right. The sister I'd wanted, the one who could be happy for me, who could love me without resentment, she'd never existed. I'd been mourning a ghost. My phone buzzed. A text from an unknown number. You're going to regret this. I showed Ethan. She's threatening you after being arrested? That's a violation of the protective order the judge just issued. He screenshotted it. This just made things worse for her. Another text. I'll ruin you back. Keep them coming, Vanessa, Ethan muttered. Every threat is another nail in your legal coffin. As I drove home to my empty house that would soon be full again, I thought about Grandma's paintings. Lighthouses in storms. She'd painted them after every major crisis in her life. Divorce, cancer, the death of her son. Lighthouses don't stop the storm, she told me once. They just stand there, solid and bright, showing the way through. Tonight, I'd been a lighthouse, and the storm named Vanessa had finally crashed against something that wouldn't break. The patrol cars hadn't even finished pulling up when I saw it. Derek's truck, the same one from my driveway, trying to reverse out of their street. But the timing was almost poetic. 2 HOA security SUVs had just turned onto the road for their routine patrol, blocking the only exit. That's convenient, Ethan murmured beside me, filming everything on his phone. The truck lurched to a stop, trapped between the party guests' cars and the HOA vehicles. Through the back window, I could see boxes, more of my things they must have been planning to move after the party. Detective Shaw stepped out of his cruiser with the practiced calm of someone who'd seen plenty of criminals think they were smarter than they were. Officer Ramirez followed, and then another vehicle I hadn't expected, a black SUV with tinted windows. The door opened, and out stepped Miss Holcomb, my grandmother's estate attorney. 70 years old, sharp as a surgical knife, wearing a suit that probably cost more than Vanessa's monthly rent. Miss Holcomb, I said, shocked. How did you? Mr. Chen called me, she said crisply. When he mentioned the paintings, I came immediately. Those pieces are registered with the National Art Registry. I helped your grandmother with the documentation myself. Vanessa, who'd been corralled near the front door by Officer Ramirez, went pale. What registry? The one that tracks valuable artwork to prevent theft and fraud, Holcomb replied. Your grandmother was many things, but she wasn't naive. She knew exactly what those paintings were worth and who might try to claim them. She pulled out a tablet, swiping to show official documents. Each painting is photographed, cataloged, and insured. They're also, she paused for effect, protected under the Art Loss Register. Moving them across state lines without ownership documentation triggers federal art theft protocols. Federal? Derek's voice cracked. You drove them to Maryland, Detective Shaw noted, checking his notebook. That's interstate transport of stolen goods valued over $30,000. The FBI has been notified. The crowd of remaining party guests pressed closer, phones out, recording everything. Someone was definitely live streaming this. But we're family, Vanessa protested, her favorite refrain becoming increasingly desperate. The paintings were legally bequeathed to Claire alone, Holcomb said. She pulled up another document. In fact, your grandmother included a specific clause, Article 7, Section 3, stating that these paintings could not be considered communal family property and could not be claimed by any other heir under any circumstances. That's not fair, Vanessa shouted. Your grandmother added that clause after you told her, and I quote from her notes, "I don't want some old paintings. Give me something I can sell." Holcomb's voice was ice. She was hurt but respected your wishes. You received jewelry valued at $15,000, which records show you sold within 6 months. How do you know that? Because your grandmother asked me to keep tabs on what happened to her gifts. She suspected they wouldn't be cherished, merely liquidated. The gut punch of that revelation showed on Vanessa's face. Even in death, Grandma had seen through her. "Where's the truck key?" Detective Shaw asked Derek. I don't have to. Sir, we can see boxes in the truck bed. If those contain items from the theft, you're adding attempted flight to your charges. Derek's hands shook as he pulled out the keys. Shaw handed them to Ramirez, who went to check the truck. "Detective," Ramirez called after a moment. "You need to see this." We all moved toward the truck. In the bed, hastily packed, were not just more of my things, my office chair, my filing cabinet, but also items I didn't recognize. A laptop that looked new, power tools still in packaging, electronics with store security tags still attached. "Mr. Morrison," Shaw said slowly, "where did these items come from?" Derek's mouth opened and closed like a fish. Ethan stepped forward, showing something on his phone to the detective. "I've been monitoring local crime reports. There were 3 burglaries in Claire's neighborhood in the past month. Electronics and tools primarily." "You son of a bitch," Vanessa whispered, staring at Derek. "You said those were from your job sites." "Vanessa, shut up," Derek hissed. But she was past listening. "He said he was getting bonuses. Buying things for the new house." "I didn't know." "You knew about Claire's things," Shaw interrupted. "You participated in that theft. But not the others. Check your footage or whatever. I wasn't part of the others." She was throwing Derek under the bus, so fast I almost got whiplash. But Derek wasn't going down alone. "She planned everything," he shouted. "The whole thing with Claire was her idea. She made lists, she got the key from her mom. She tracked Claire's schedule." "Shut up," Vanessa screamed. "She's been planning this for months. Show them your notebook, Vanessa. The one where you wrote down everything Claire owned and how much it was worth." They turned on each other like rabid dogs while everyone watched. The party guests, the police, the attorney, the neighbors who'd started gathering on the street. Their perfect crime was unraveling into a public spectacle. Tara Kim, a journalist from the local paper who'd somehow materialized in the chaos, stepped forward with a professional smile. "Mr. Morrison, Ms. Morrison, would you like to comment on the allegations of serial theft?" "No comment," Derek snarled. "How about the admission that you've been planning this for months?" She turned to Vanessa. "The notebook your husband mentioned, is that evidence of premeditation?" "Get that camera away from me." Vanessa lunged at Tara, but Ramirez caught her arm. "Ma'am, you need to calm down. I want a lawyer." "You'll have opportunity to contact one from the station," Shaw said. He looked at the crowd. "I need everyone who was here when the defendants admitted to taking items to provide contact information. You may be called as witnesses." People started lining up, eager to be part of the drama. Some were showing videos they'd already taken to Ramirez. Mom and Dad pushed through the crowd. Mom looked destroyed, aged 10 years in an hour. Dad just looked grim. "Vanessa," Mom started. "This is your fault." Vanessa spat at her. "You gave me that key. You said Claire had too much anyway." Mom's face crumbled. "I said no such thing." "You did. You said she didn't need all that space, that it wasn't fair." "I said it was a big house for one person. That's not permission to rob her." "But you gave me the key. For emergencies. In case something happened to Claire and we needed to get in." The revelation that Mom had been genuinely worried about my safety, not conspiring against me, shifted something in my chest. Mrs. Morrison, Detective Shaw interrupted. Did you give your daughter permission to enter Claire's home and take property?
No.
Never. I thought. Mom broke down sobbing. I thought maybe they'd borrow something small, maybe the lawnmower or... I didn't know it would be this. You knew exactly what kind of person she is. Dad's voice rose, surprising everyone. You've enabled her entire marriage. Every time she stole from Claire as a child, you made excuses. Every time she broke something out of spite, you bought a replacement instead of holding her accountable. This is the result. Don't you dare, Vanessa started. I dare, Dad said coldly. I'm done pretending this family is normal. You're a thief, Vanessa. You've always been a thief. The only difference now is you're finally facing consequences. The silence was deafening. Then, from the truck, Ramirez's voice. Detective, I found something else.
He was holding a storage unit key with a tag.
Unit 47B, secure store on Route 9. Derek went white. That's nothing. Nothing. Shaw pulled out his phone. Let me call in that location. He stepped aside, speaking quietly. While we waited, Holcomb approached me. Claire, I need you to know something. Your grandmother changed her will 6 months before she died. Originally, the paintings were to be divided between you and Vanessa. What changed? Vanessa visited her, saw the paintings, and asked if she could have them appraised for insurance purposes. She wanted to know their value before your grandmother was even sick. When your grandmother realized Vanessa only saw dollar signs, she changed the will to leave them all to you. She said, Claire sees the story in each brushstroke. Vanessa only sees the signature. I had to turn away to hide my tears. Even dying, Grandma had been protecting what mattered. Shaw returned, his expression grim. Units at that location were accessed tonight around 6 p.m. Security footage shows Mr. Morrison loading items. We're getting a warrant now. It's just stuff from my job, Derek protested. Then you won't mind us taking a look, Shaw said mildly. The storage unit revelation changed everything. Within an hour, Shaw had the warrant. Ethan and I followed in my car, along with what felt like half the neighborhood. Even at 10 p.m., word had spread. The local news van was already at Secure Store when we arrived. The unit was small, maybe 10 by 12 feet, but it was packed. As the police cut the lock, Derek kept insisting it was all legitimate. All from job sites. All things he was holding for clients. The flashlights illuminated a hoarder's paradise of obviously stolen goods. Not just electronics and tools, but jewelry boxes, designer bags, even a bicycle that looked exactly like the one stolen from the Hendersons last month. Jesus Christ, Derek, Vanessa whispered. What did you do? What we did, he corrected viciously. You think your sister's stuff is the only thing in here? Check the back left corner, sweetheart. Shaw directed his flashlight to where Derek indicated. There, wrapped in the same moving blankets they'd used for Grandma's paintings, were more canvases. Different paintings, but clearly valuable. Those are from the Whitman estate sale. Someone in the crowd gasped. They reported them stolen 2 weeks ago. Vanessa stumbled backward. I didn't know about those. You helped me load them, Derek said flatly. You said if we were going to build a new life, we needed to look successful. I thought you bought them. With what money? We're broke, remember? That's why we needed Claire's stuff in the first place. Their public unraveling continued as Shaw's team cataloged the unit. Ethan was documenting everything, building a timeline on his phone. Look at this, he showed me quietly. Based on the thefts reported in the area and what's in here, they've been doing this for at least 3 months. Your sister might not have known the full extent, but she definitely knew about some of it. Tara, the journalist, had her phone out, live tweeting the discovery. Storage unit reveals potential theft ring. Estimated value of stolen goods exceeds $100,000. More updates coming. This is insane, I said to Ethan. I thought they just wanted my things out of spite. It started that way, probably, he replied. But look, he showed me something on his phone. Derek's construction business has 3 liens against it. They're facing foreclosure on their rental. Your things might have been personal, but this storage unit? This was desperation. Detective Shaw approached us. Ms. Chun, we found some of your documents in the unit. Financial records, receipts. It appears they were planning to forge ownership papers for some items. He showed me a tablet with photos from the unit. There were my files, but also what looked like practice signatures, my signature being copied over and over in Vanessa's handwriting. She was going to forge my name? Appears so. We also found this. He showed me a notebook, Vanessa's handwriting filling pages. Lists of my possessions, estimated values, even notes about my schedule. January 15th. C leaves for work at 7:30. Return 6 p.m. unless gym night, Tuesdays/Thursdays. She'd been watching me for months, documenting my life like a stalker. There's more, Shaw said grimly. He showed me another page. Plans for your house after you were gone. Gone. She wrote about convincing you to move, making you feel unsafe. If we take enough, she'll give up and leave. Mom will convince her to move home. We can rent her house, use the income. They hadn't just wanted my things. They'd wanted my life. A commotion at the unit entrance caught our attention. Mom had arrived, Dad supporting her as she looked at the scene in horror. Vanessa, she said weakly. What have you done? What I had to. Vanessa screamed. You always said family helps family. Not like this. Never like this. You gave me the key. I gave you emergency access. Not permission to destroy your sister's life. Shaw stepped between them. Ma'am, I need to ask you some questions about that key. While Mom was questioned, I noticed Derek trying to text on his phone despite his cuffed hands. Ramirez noticed too and took it from him. Interesting, Ramirez said, reading. He's texting someone named Marcus. Cops at unit. Clear your place. Who's Marcus? Shaw demanded. Derek clamped his mouth shut. It took less than 5 minutes for Shaw to run the name. Marcus Turner, Derek's cousin, with a record for theft and fraud. Currently on probation. Well, Mr. Morrison, you just implicated someone else in your crime ring. Shaw smiled coldly. And violating probation means Marcus goes straight back to prison. Think he'll keep quiet about your involvement? Derek's face crumbled. I want a lawyer. You'll get one. But right now you're looking at organized theft, interstate trafficking, forgery, conspiracy, and about a dozen other charges. Your wife too. She didn't know, Derek said suddenly. About Marcus, about most of it. She wanted nice things. I told her I was buying them. Was he actually trying to protect Vanessa now? After throwing her under the bus earlier? Vanessa stared at him. Derek. The stuff from Claire, that was her idea, he continued. But the rest, that was me and Marcus. Leave her out of that part. It was the first decent thing I'd seen him do. Probably the last, too. Shaw nodded, making notes. We'll take that into consideration. The crowd had grown. Our family drama had become community entertainment. I recognized faces from the neighborhood, from work, from the gym. Everyone would know by tomorrow. The successful daughter and the thief daughter. The family that imploded over furniture and paintings. Ethan's friend arrived, another law student named Jennifer, who specialized in fraud cases. She pulled us aside. Claire, you need to know that with forgery and identity theft added to the charges, Vanessa's looking at serious time. This isn't just family court anymore. How serious? With the value of goods, the premeditation, the forgery? 5 to 10 years if convicted on all counts. 5 to 10 years. My sister could go to prison for a decade because she couldn't stand me having nice things. The federal charges make it worse, Jennifer continued. Interstate trafficking of stolen goods over $5,000 is a federal crime. The FBI will definitely take this case. FBI. My family theft had become a federal case. Tara approached with her recorder. Claire, how does it feel to discover your sister was running a theft ring? I don't think she knew about all of it, I said carefully. Why was I defending her? The things from my house, that was personal. The rest, I think she got caught up in something bigger. You're defending the person who robbed you? I'm trying to understand how we got here, I replied. How family becomes this. She nodded, surprisingly sympathetic. Would you be willing to do a full interview? Help other families recognize the warning signs? I looked at Vanessa being put into the police car, at Derek in another, and my parents standing destroyed on the sidewalk, at the storage unit full of other people's treasured possessions. Yes, I said. If it helps one family avoid this, yes. As the police cars pulled away, I heard Vanessa screaming my name. Not in anger this time, but in fear. Reality had finally hit. She was going to jail, probably prison. Her son would grow up with a mother behind bars. Her marriage was over. Her life, as she knew it, was done. And it all started because she couldn't stand me having things she didn't. Mom approached me tentatively. Claire, I'm so sorry. I never imagined. You gave her a key to my house, I said flatly. For emergencies. If you were hurt, or... You gave my sister, who has stolen from me my entire life, a key to my house. What did you think would happen? She broke down completely, then collapsing against Dad. He held her but looked at me over her head. You're right, he said quietly. We enabled this. We always made excuses. Always smoothed things over. We failed both of you. You failed me, I corrected. Vanessa, you just delayed the inevitable for. She was always going to end up here. The only question was whether she'd take me down with her. It was harsh, but it was true. Every unpunished childhood theft, every excused cruelty, every forced reconciliation had led to this moment. Ethan touched my shoulder. The storage unit is being sealed. Everything will be cataloged, cross-referenced with theft reports, returned to owners. Your things will be processed as evidence, but you'll get them back. How long? Weeks, maybe months. But you'll get them back. I looked at the unit one more time. Somewhere in there were Grandma's paintings, wrapped in moving blankets, waiting to come home. They'd survived Vanessa's envy, Derek's greed, and now they'd survived the legal system. Like lighthouses in a storm, Grandma had painted, standing firm no matter what crashed against them. As we drove home, past the spots where my furniture had been, past the neighborhoods that had been robbed, past the life I'd built that Vanessa had tried to steal, I thought about what came next. Legal proceedings. Family therapy, maybe, if any family was left. Definitely therapy for me. You did the right thing, Ethan said. Calling the police, pressing charges, standing firm. Did I? My family is destroyed. Your family was already destroyed. You just stopped pretending it wasn't. He was right. The family I'd wanted, the one where sisters supported each other and parents protected both children equally, that family had never existed. I'd been clinging to a fantasy, while reality robbed me blind. My phone buzzed. A text from a number I didn't recognize. This is Marcus, Derek's cousin. He sold you out completely. Testified that everything was your sister's idea. Just thought you should know. I showed Ethan. And the rats desert the sinking ship, he said. They'll all turn on each other now. Derek, Vanessa, Marcus. The prosecutors will have them fighting to cut deals. Vanessa will blame Derek. Derek will blame Marcus. Marcus will blame them both. And the truth. The truth is they're all guilty. Just of different things. We pulled into my driveway, my empty house waiting, but not for long. Insurance would cover immediate replacements. The criminal restitution would handle the rest. In 6 months, maybe a year, it would look like nothing had happened. Except everything had happened. And nothing would ever be the same. The courtroom smelled like old wood and disappointment. 3 weeks after the storage unit discovery, I sat in the gallery watching my sister's arraignment. She looked smaller somehow, diminished in her orange jumpsuit, her usually perfect hair flat against her head. Derek was being arraigned separately. His lawyer had successfully argued for severance given the additional charges related to the theft ring. Smart move. Vanessa's involvement in the broader conspiracy was murky. Her involvement in robbing me was crystal clear. How does the defendant plead? Judge Martinez asked. Vanessa's court-appointed attorney, she couldn't afford private counsel after their assets were frozen, whispered urgently to her. She shook her head violently, then stood. Not guilty, Your Honor. A murmur ran through the gallery. How could she plead not guilty when dozens of people had witnessed her admissions? The prosecutor, ADA Sarah Williams, stood. Your Honor, given the defendant's lack of remorse and the overwhelming evidence including video footage, witness testimony, and written documentation of premeditation, the state requests bail be set at $50,000. That's outrageous. Vanessa burst out. I can't afford that. Ms. Morrison, Judge Martinez said coldly, you'll speak only through your attorney. Her lawyer quickly stood. Your Honor, my client has strong ties to the community, a young son who needs her, and no prior record. We request release on her own recognizance. A young son who wasn't present during the commission of these crimes, Williams countered. The defendant has shown a pattern of escalating criminal behavior and has violated a protective order by attempting to contact the victim. My phone, the threatening texts, they'd helped after all. Bail is set at $30,000, Judge Martinez decided. The defendant is to have no contact with the victim, directly or through third parties. Any violation will result in immediate revocation of bail. As they led Vanessa out, she turned to scan the gallery. Our eyes met. The hatred there was pure, undiluted. But underneath it, for just a second I saw fear. Outside the courthouse, Tara Kim was waiting with her recorder. The interview she'd mentioned had turned into a series, When Family Crosses the Line, a study in escalation. Claire, how do you feel about your sister pleading not guilty? It's her right, I said carefully. Ethan had coached me on speaking to media. The evidence will speak for itself. Your parents weren't in court today. No comment on that. But the truth was it hurt. Mom had chosen to stay home, unable to face seeing Vanessa in custody. Dad had gone to work, saying he couldn't afford to lose the day's pay with everything happening. The family unit had shattered completely. That afternoon, Ethan called with updates from the investigation. Marcus flipped completely. He's given them everything, dates, locations, even recordings of Derek planning jobs. Recordings? Apparently, Marcus was smarter than Derek thought. He recorded conversations for insurance in case Derek tried to pin everything on him, which, ironically, is exactly what happened. What about Vanessa? Marcus says she was only involved in your theft and two others, the Whitman paintings and some electronics from the Hendersons. Derek apparently told her they were buying them from desperate sellers. And she believed that? She chose to believe it. There's a difference. That evening, I got an unexpected call. Vanessa's husband, ex-husband now, as Derek had filed for divorce from jail, wanted to meet. We met at a coffee shop downtown. Derek looked rough, unshaven, hollow-eyed, his usual swagger completely gone. I want to make a deal, he said without preamble.
I'm listening.
I testify fully about Vanessa's involvement in your theft, every detail, every plan she made. In exchange, you speak at my sentencing. Ask for leniency. You want me to help you after what you did? I want to see my son again before he's in college, Derek said flatly. With the federal charges, I'm looking at 15 years minimum. Vanessa's looking at 5 to 7. One of us needs to be around for Aiden. Aiden, my 5-year-old nephew, who had no idea his parents were criminals. Vanessa planned everything about your house, Derek continued. I've got texts, voicemails, even videos of her practicing her story about you loaning us the stuff. She's playing the victim now, but she was the mastermind for that part. And the rest? The storage unit.
His jaw tightened.
That was me. My business was failing. I was desperate. I started small tools from construction sites. Then it escalated. Vanessa didn't know about most of it, but when she found out, she didn't stop me. She just said to be careful. She knew and didn't care. She cared when it benefited her. Your stuff? She was thrilled. Other people's stuff? As long as I said I bought it, she didn't ask questions. I stared at my coffee, thinking, if I agree to speak at your sentencing, and I'm not saying I will, what exactly are you offering? He pulled out his phone, showed me screenshots. Texts from Vanessa. Claire's at dinner with Mom and Dad. Perfect time. Make sure you get the paintings first. They're worth the most. If she calls the cops, I'll tell Mom she's having another breakdown. Another breakdown? I asked. She's been telling your parents for years that you're mentally unstable. Jealous of her family. prone to making things up. She was laying groundwork in case you ever stood up to her. The depth of the betrayal kept getting worse. "I'll think about it," I said, standing. "The prosecutor meets with me tomorrow. I need an answer tonight." That evening, I called the one person who'd been honest with me throughout, Ethan. "Take the deal," he advised. "Derek's going down regardless. At least this way, Aiden has one parent with a shorter sentence. But it helps Derek. It helps your nephew. There's a difference." I texted Derek. "Deal." The next morning brought another surprise. Mom stood at my door with a manila envelope. "I found these in Vanessa's old room," she said quietly. "I thought you should see them." Inside were photos, dozens of them. All of my things in Vanessa's phone. But they went back years. Pictures of my first apartment, my graduation gifts, even my college dorm room. Each one annotated in Vanessa's handwriting. Claire's new couch, $2,000. Birthday gift from Grandma Worth? Laptop research model. She's been cataloging my life for years? Mom nodded, tears streaming. "I found notebooks too. Lists of everything you've ever gotten, every achievement, every raise you mentioned." She was keeping score. "And you never noticed?" I thought she was just interested. Proud, maybe. Mom laughed bitterly. "I was so blind." "You weren't blind. You were willfully ignorant. There's a difference." She flinched but didn't argue. "The prosecution wants these. I wanted you to see them first." "Why?" "Because you deserve to know the truth. All of it. Even the parts that make me look terrible as a mother." After she left, I spent hours going through the photos. My life through Vanessa's envious lens. Every happy moment twisted into a grievance. Every success transformed into theft of what should have been hers. The trial date was set for 6 months out, but the media attention was immediate. Tara's articles had gone viral. The sister who stole everything was trending on social media. People were taking sides, Team Claire or Team Vanessa, as if this was entertainment instead of my life falling apart. Then Vanessa made a critical mistake. Despite the no-contact order, she had a friend call me, Ashley, her best friend since high school. "Claire, you need to drop the charges," Ashley said without preamble. "Vanessa's falling apart. She can't eat, can't sleep. You're destroying her." "She destroyed herself. She's your sister." "No," I said firmly. "A sister wouldn't do what she did. I don't have a sister. I have a thief who shares my DNA." "You cold bitch. No wonder she hated you." I recorded the entire call. Another violation of the protective order. Another nail in Vanessa's legal coffin. But the best was yet to come. The morning of Vanessa's final hearing, 6 months after that night with the truck, I stood in my rebuilt living room. Insurance had covered immediate replacements. The criminal restitution was covering the rest. But nothing looked quite right anymore. The new couch wasn't the one I'd saved for. The replacement TV didn't have the satisfaction of being earned with my bonus. Only Grandma's paintings, finally returned after being held as evidence, looked like they belonged. They hung in their original spots, lighthouse beams cutting through painted storms. At the courthouse, the gallery was packed. Mom sat in the middle, trying to be neutral. Dad sat on my side, having finally chosen. The extended family was split, some supporting Vanessa because family forgives, others supporting me because theft is theft. Vanessa entered in a navy suit, trying to look respectable. The months had aged her. Her husband was gone. Her son was living with Derek's parents. Her reputation was destroyed. All for furniture and spite. The trial had been avoided. Faced with Derek's testimony and mountains of evidence, Vanessa had finally accepted a plea deal. Today was sentencing. "Ms. Morrison," Judge Martinez began, "you've pled guilty to breaking and entering, grand larceny, and conspiracy to commit theft. Before I pronounce sentence, do you have anything to say?" Vanessa stood, a paper trembling in her hands. "I want to apologize to everyone I hurt. My actions were wrong. I let jealousy and resentment control me. I convinced myself I deserved what my sister had because I had a family and she didn't. I see now how twisted that was." She turned to look at me.
Claire, I'm sorry.
Not just for taking your things, but for years of making you feel like you didn't deserve success. You worked for everything you have. I was just too bitter to see it. It sounded rehearsed because it was. Her lawyer had probably written it. But there was something in her eyes, maybe genuine regret, maybe just regret at being caught. I asked the court for leniency, so I can rebuild my life and be a mother to my son. Judge Martinez reviewed his notes. I've received several letters regarding sentencing. Miss Chun, as the primary victim, would you like to make a statement? I stood, my own paper in hand, but I didn't need it. I'd memorized every word. Your Honor, my sister didn't just steal my possessions. She stole my sense of security, my trust in family, my belief that love meant something. For months, she stalked my life, cataloged my belongings, and planned my violation. She convinced our mother to give her a key by lying about her intentions. She tried to turn our parents against me with lies about my mental stability. But worse than what she took is what she taught. She taught her son that taking what you want is acceptable. She taught her family that violence, and yes, breaking into someone's home is violence, can be excused with, but we're family. She taught me that sometimes the people who share your blood are the most dangerous. I don't ask for maximum sentence out of vengeance. I ask for it out of necessity. Vanessa has shown a pattern of escalation that spans decades. Without consequences, real consequences, she'll continue to believe the world owes her everything she wants. That said, I also ask that any sentence include mandatory therapy and that consideration be given to allowing supervised visits with her son. A child shouldn't lose his mother entirely because she couldn't control her envy. I sat down. The courtroom was silent. Judge Martinez spoke slowly. Ms. Morrison, your crimes stem from a fundamental belief that you are entitled to what others earned. This court cannot and will not validate that belief. You're hereby sentenced to 4 years in state prison, with possibility of parole after 2 years contingent on good behavior and completion of therapy programs. You'll pay full restitution to all victims, totaling $47,000. You're granted supervised visitation with your minor child once monthly. Vanessa collapsed, sobbing. For years. Aiden would be 9 when she got out. As they led her away, she looked back one more time. I'm sorry, she mouthed. I wanted to believe her. But I'd wanted to believe a lot of things about my sister that turned out to be lies. Outside the courthouse, the family gathered in awkward clusters. Some comforted Mom, who was devastated. Others approached me with variations of, "You did what you had to do." Aunt Patricia pulled me aside. "Your grandmother would be proud. You stood up to a bully, even though it was family." "Especially because it was family," I corrected. That evening, I hosted a small dinner in my rebuilt home. Just Dad, Ethan, Mrs. Chun, and surprisingly, Mr. Johnson and his wife. "We failed you that night," Mr. Johnson said simply. "We saw wrong happening and did nothing. We want to make amends." "You testified," I reminded him. That was enough. "No, it wasn't. But we're working on being better neighbors. Better people." We ate dinner at my new table, sitting in my replacement chairs, but somehow it felt more like home than before. Maybe because I'd fought for it. Maybe because I'd learned who would fight alongside me. Dad stayed after everyone left, helping me clean up. "I should have protected you," he said quietly. "All those years, I should have stopped Vanessa's behavior." "You couldn't have prevented this, Dad." "Maybe not this specifically. But I could have prevented the pattern that led to it." He dried a dish carefully. "I'm going to therapy. To understand how I let this happen. How I failed both my daughters in different ways." "Dad." "I failed Vanessa by never holding her accountable. I failed you by making you keep the peace instead of protecting you. I can't undo that, but I can do better going forward." A week later, I received a letter from prison. Vanessa's handwriting, but different somehow. Less aggressive. "Claire, I know you probably won't read this. I wouldn't if I were you. But therapy here is mandatory, and part of it is writing letters we'll never send. Except I need to send this one. The therapist asked me when I first felt entitled to your things. I said it was recent, but that's a lie. It started when we were kids, and Mom bought you a bike after I broke yours. I realized then that you'd always get new things, better things, because people felt sorry for you when I hurt you. But that wasn't your fault. You were just a kid who wanted to ride her bike. I'm not asking for forgiveness. I'm just trying to understand how I became someone who could break into my sister's house and feel justified. The answer isn't pretty. It's not about you at all. It never was. It was about me hating myself and taking it out on the person who reminded me what I could have been if I'd tried. I don't expect a response. I just needed you to know. Vanessa. I read it 3 times before filing it away. Maybe someday I'd respond. Maybe when she got out, we could have some kind of relationship. Maybe Aiden would know his aunt as more than the woman who sent his mother to prison. Or maybe not. Maybe some breaks can't be fixed, just acknowledged. 3 months later, Derek was sentenced to 12 years with possibility of parole in 8. He'd been hit with federal charges for the interstate trafficking. Marcus got 5 years. The theft ring was completely dismantled. My life slowly returned to normal, or a new version of normal. I installed security cameras, upgraded my locks, and yes, I got a new fake rock for the spare key, but this time, only Ethan and Mrs. Chin knew where it was. The house filled back up with things, but they felt different now. Less like achievements, more like just things. What mattered was that I'd stood my ground. I'd been the lighthouse in the storm, just like Grandma painted. On the first anniversary of the theft, I hung a new painting above my fireplace. Not one of Grandma's. Those were safely displayed in other rooms, but one I'd commissioned from a local artist. It showed a lighthouse standing firm against crashing waves, but in the background, barely visible, was another lighthouse, broken and dark. Because that's what Vanessa and I were now, 2 lighthouses in the same storm. One standing, one fallen. Both forever changed by the waves that crashed between us. The story made national news eventually. The sister who stole everything became a cautionary tale about family, entitlement, and the price of envy. I got offers to write a book, to do a documentary, to go on talk shows. I declined them all. This wasn't a story I wanted to tell. It was a story I'd lived through and survived. The last time I saw Vanessa was at Mom's funeral, 3 years into her sentence. She was granted compassionate release for the service, shackled and supervised. We stood on opposite sides of the grave, 2 daughters mourning the mother who'd loved us both but failed us in different ways. She looked healthier, clearer. Prison therapy and routine had given her structure she'd never had before. We didn't speak, but as they led her away, she stopped. "The paintings," she said. "They're beautiful. Grandma would be happy they're safe with you." "They were always safe with me," I replied. She nodded. "I know that now." And maybe that was enough. Not forgiveness, not reconciliation, just acknowledgement. I still live in the same house. Still have Grandma's paintings. Still sometimes jump when I hear a truck in the driveway at night. But I also still stand firm, like those lighthouses in the storm. Because that's what you do when someone says you don't deserve nice things. You prove them wrong by keeping them anyway. If someone you loved believed they deserved your life more than you did, would you have the strength to stop them, even if it meant losing them forever? Share your thoughts below, and subscribe for more stories about the price of standing your ground.